Thank you, reminding me to turn myself.
For our last meeting. And
Remind me
Always
to
do
turn
not
my
disturb
volume
mode.
off. So, like, oh, I forgot.
And
I don't
ruler.
Yeah, I don't have like if there was any general funds for today.
Zoom 24, one.
It's 6:02. I'm gonna call our regular meeting of the Lakewood Community Development Agency.
Is your microphone on?
It is 6:03 now, and I'm going to call to order our regular meeting of Lakewood Beach Community Redevelopment Agency. Roll call, please.
Miss Caroline Shivasha, Miss Ann Fairfax, Miss Leah Burge, Miss Donna Kerner, Mr. Daniel Morgan, Miss Carla Blockson.
Here.
Please note, Mr. Drew Bartlett is not present.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Caroline Shivasha, Ann Fairfax,
United States of America,
Donna Kerner,
to the republic for which it
Daniel
stands,
Morgan,
one nation, under God, indivisible.
please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
At this time, I want to mention that we do have an addition to our agenda. Under the consent agenda, we have an item C, and it is purchase of property for affordable housing, and it concerns 115 North F Street. That was added later, and so we're going to cover that under the consent agenda. Does anyone else have any additions, deletions, or reordering for our agenda tonight?
Madam Chair, this is just a suggestion, but perhaps we move the budget to after the action agenda because we do have people here who need to wait for us.
At this time, we're gonna have public comment on non-agenda items. If there's anyone who would like to speak for public comments, please approach the podium.
Just press the button on the bottom there.
Well. You still know now. You know the song. Is this it? Okay. Hi, my name is Todd Townsend, 502 South J Street, and I come to you all tonight on wounded and bended knee. Aside from that, I just wanted to come and talk to you about the museum and the associated apartment building that's going to have to go with it. And I think that it's not being located in the right place. I think that we should mow down that awful bank building that has just been emptied. And with that and with that big area that's already cleared, shovel ready in front of the church there, I think that would really be the best place for this project. They could really highlight themselves on the corner of Lake and Federal Highway. It would offer a great elongated opportunity to build us a really fantastic deco building that would actually face Federal Highway, and I think they would have more space to do what they want to do rather than cram that building into that spot and then cram the associated building behind there. And then we've got this imaginary parking garage that's going to have to go up behind the theater. And I've already done all the footwork. It's not going to fit. The ramps are going to take up so much space. Just not going to fit. And I think that our friends, the Wiener people, did say that they would look at other places if other places were brought up. And so I just wanted to just make that suggestion because I know that we're all a team, we're a family, and we all listen to each other. So thank you very much. That's all I want to say.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment under public comment on non-agenda items? At this time, we'll have a presentation for the Wiener Museum of Decorative Art, W. Moda.
Good evening, Chair and Board. My name is Renee Miller, and I have the pleasure to represent the Wiener Museum of Decorative Arts for the WMODA Mixed Use
Hold on,
Cultural.
Renee, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me now?
Now we can, yes.
Okay, my apologies. Good evening, Chair and Board. My name is Renee Miller. I am representing the Wiener Museum of Decorative Arts and, of course, our current endeavor for a public-private partnership for the WMODA Mixed Use Cultural Arts Campus. I'd like to share my screen with you. I want to make sure that you can see that well. Okay, fantastic. Can you see that okay on your end? Are you able to see that okay on your end?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. It's been a while since we've had an opportunity to talk to the body. I wanted to just highlight the successful community charrette that we held on May 22nd at the Hatch. We had over 85 residents and business owners who attended in person. And since that time, as you know, we also broadcasted live on YouTube. And since that time, we've had more than 100+ views of our community charrette and the efforts there. As a reminder, the concept that we brought to the community charrette was that we would bring forth an initial design and allow for the community to work side by side with each one of the team members to share concerns, ideas, improvements. We diligently took down notes on each one of the maps that were provided as working documents in each one of the tables. And since that time, our team of professionals have been working to improve the drawings and to incorporate into the final presentation some of the things that we heard from the community as concerns and frankly improvements on the overall design, so that we can bring back to this body what we believe is the best representation of a financially feasible project that takes into consideration the community's concerns. We are, as I said, we're in that update design. We'll be working really closely with the team at the city and the CRA in the month of July. This is kind of where the design phase and the development deal negotiations overlap. So we'll be working on wrapping up the design and dealing with a lot of the fine points with folks from fire and engineering and planning, and of course CRA. And then moving forward with firming up our deal terms over the next couple of months. One of the most exciting things that has happened since I had an opportunity to update this body last is that the City Commission adopted unanimously a resolution of support for the creation of a parking structure that would replace the existing parking structure that's located on K Street. This parking structure, or the evaluation of the feasibility of this parking structure, was very important to the WMOTA effort as we moved through our design, and specifically as we spoke to the community in the charrette. It became really clear to us that we really would not be able to accomplish a quality design in the scale in which is representative of what the city wanted, and have structured above ground structured parking on the site. The inclusion of the possibility of a public-private partnership on K Street for us to be able to locate some additional parking to support the museum is key to us being able to move forward with this development. We shared that desire and we shared that concern with the city and the CRA. And the staff at the city brought forth this resolution just to understand whether there would be consensus to looking into the feasibility. And this item was brought forth on June 18th and passed unanimously through the City Commission, which was really important to us because then we knew we could move forward full speed with engineering and all the things that would be required on the design as it's currently considered on the site on L&M. So we're very excited about that confirmation of partnership and participation. As you know, this is our 5-step critical path. We have moved through the first 3 steps, and now we are in step 4, which is our final vision and P3 terms negotiation. That will take us through the month of August. And then after that, we move through to our formal agreement and site plan finalization, all in preparation for a final presentation to this body in September. We continue to encourage the community to follow us on www.wmotaloveslwb.com. I've included the QR code here in our presentation. Please do learn updated information about what's happening with our project by visiting us at this page. And in addition to that, if reading our newsletter or signing up for the newsletter is not what you want to do, we want to let the community know that you can always email us at wmotaloveslwb@gmail.com if you have any questions or concerns that you'd like to share. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm open to questions at the pleasure of the board.
Hi, Renee, it's Anne.
Hi, Anne. I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well.
Oh, there we go. I have just got my microphone on. I've been slightly out of the loop on the design and I apologize if I haven't followed up with you, but I'm going to be here next week, all week, and I wondered if I could meet with your architect, your team, or you to really review where we are with the design and the things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll be sure to connect with you to get a date and time and coordinate that meeting.
Great, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Renee.
All right, thank you very much.
Next, we have a presentation for 1000 Lake Avenue. Dr. Bobbin Shaw. Sorry if I did not pronounce your name correctly.
Called a lot worse.
Hi, everyone.
Just press the button.
1 minute.
Hi,
Get it talking.
hello. Well, maybe pull it down towards you a little bit.
No.
No, no.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Donna Marie. I'm representing Bob and Shaw. He's right here. And I have been taking aboard this project. We have multiple projects going on. We're getting started. And with 1000 Lake, I'm happy to say that everything has been submitted. All questions were responded to. And the only thing I think I have to give her, Anne Greening, I believe, I'm new here, so I'm not sure, is the notice of the affidavit, notification of affidavit, which will be sent to her by tomorrow. So we're really on board with this. We're moving forward. We have our contractor ready to go, and the team is ready to get started, so we're very excited about that. I also want to tell you that at 717 Lake Avenue, we are opening up a restaurant. The design and concept is by a celebrity chef. His name is Todd English. We're very excited about that. It's going to be a Tuscan fusion steakhouse. And it's right on the corner. I'm sure all of you know that building. So we're excited about that. Are there any other questions? We have other projects too.
Is it okay if I?
Oh, yeah.
We're a team here, so, and I'm fortunate to have Donna here, given our commitment to Lake Worth. And given the multiple projects that we have going on here. Hello? Perfect, all right, thank you. That I needed additional help to get these moving the way we're supposed to get them moving. We had a little bit of a delay with certain things being approved in the timeframe that we were hoping to get them approved in. But I think we finally made some headway. We have construction crews ready. And given that there's both construction and TV crews required for 1000 Lake, we have to coordinate a lot of those efforts. For those of you that may not know, for 1000 Lake, we're envisioning a restaurant/brewery concept that will be concentrating around pop culture and pop culture themed with some famous personalities that you guys have already heard about and seen in their videos. With 717, we're also excited to bring Jeff English to Lake Worth. We've got a following, and we think it'll add to the dynamic of Lake Worth. And we think it'll add to the selection of menu items that folks can find in downtown Lake Worth more so than what there is today. So we're excited about that. And we're also working on a couple of additional projects that we hope to brief you on very shortly. And again, all these projects are in front of us today because of the support of the CRA and the mayor's office and the commission has provided us over the years. So thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Quick question. Sorry.
When is 717 Mullins open?
September 1st is our target date, so it's Labor weekend. There, I have valet parking. I'll invite everyone. I will be sending an email to all of them if I can get one from everything else. And yeah, so September 1st is the target date.
You're gonna have a soft opening?
We're gonna have a soft opening, I believe, 2 or 3 days before, where we will invite everyone here, especially here and our friends and family. But the target date for grand opening is so we're almost there. Yeah, very exciting. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, good. Thank you.
The presentation on item C, inhabit Village Flats, Lakewood Beach, King Perry, come on down.
Is this still on?
Yeah.
We had the presentation. If not, I can just speak. Separate.
No,
Okay, did they receive it?
Emily, do we have a presentation? No.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so just to update you guys, I'll just kind of speak to presentation that I created, but it's all gonna be done verbally. So just to give you guys some updates, 1310, as you can probably drive over and see, the trees are coming down, the grubbing is starting. Fencing was supposed to go up today, but unfortunately a worker got hurt, so that's delayed. I believe it'll go up tomorrow. You'll start to see a lot of action in and around that site, which will include not only clearing the site, but also the civil work that'll work the alleyway that goes from, I believe it's D to E, if I'm correct there. So 1310 should be rocking and rolling soon. That's the positive aspect there. 1216 and 1401. 1401 is the furthest west site that has 10 units. That should be resubmitted and passed to building here in the next day or two. It was a matter of just conforming our landscape plan, civil and architectural because of some refuse issues and just locating that for public waste. All the comments we've received thus far have been very minimal. When I say minimal, I mean from all departments, usually 10 or less, which in this circumstance, given the size of this project, it's pretty small. We're working through all those issues and just getting things situated. Like I said, those two pieces should be resubmitted, I think by tomorrow. And then the remaining piece, 1215, should be resubmitted, I would think in the next few weeks. It's a matter of just getting civil change because they've changed on the other pieces, it kind of flows down, and we're working on submitting the final piece shortly thereafter. The only other thing I was going to update for you guys, and I'm glad I highlighted the progress first, because I do think in the past 2 weeks, especially, there has been some progress. But I was brought here tonight to kind of highlight some of the issues we dealt with. For those who are wondering why things weren't moving out of the ground quite as fast. We've had some issues and the city staff has acknowledged. I think you always know that I'm a champion of the city staff. I think they work hard, they work long hours. They do their absolute best at all times, and I've always appreciated that. But in the past few months, I would say starting in, I think our last meeting was March 7th. Shortly thereafter, obviously, I started submitting stuff. And at present, and again, they've acknowledged this, so I'm not breaking any news here. They've had some issues with digital transmission. And by that, I mean that we've tried 5 separate cloud servers, none of them work. I can list them out for you if you'd like, but they don't work. And there's primarily my understanding is because of the firewall that is enabled there. Then beyond that, if it does work, apparently it takes hours and hours and hours to print a few sheets. So that was something that we overcame with them. And then they asked me to use the Lake Worth Online portal, which I had bad experiences with before. And this is now no different. They're now acknowledging that it's not clear when you submit something, if it's actually been received. And then in a certain case, they actually didn't receive it, but thought they had, and they're working through that. So on their end, again, I'm loath to criticize them. I'm just giving you an update as to what we've gone through. We are moving as quickly as possible. The solution now is actually going old school. I submit everything via USB drive. So it's a very physical encounter. I hand deliver it and give them a USB drive, no different than we used to do in the early 2000s, which is right up my alley. And we're pressing forward with alacrity and dispatch here. I think you'll see things moving out of the ground at 1310 very, very soon, and shortly thereafter on all their plots. The only benefit of all this is that, you know, we were always at least a little concerned about this phased approach and would they go up one by one. I think you can allay all those fears. That no longer seems to be an issue. It's a benefit to us to do it all at once. It's actually cheaper that way. And it's obviously what you guys want to see as many units going up as possible. So we think it's all going to integrate nicely and it should be all coming up together as one. That's the update for tonight. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sorry to make you kind of go back into history, but could you just remind us what phase three? I have the document here about the purchase of.
That's actually another thing I was going to present on. It's a good question.
You could just.
Yep. So the history is that when we first submitted, it was broken into 3 phases. The reason that was done is because 1310 is actually less than 7,500 square feet. So the thinking was that we could get that quadplex out of the ground rather quickly because it's a smaller development. So it was submitted in 3 pieces. 1401 Lucerne was the other one. And that was the 10 units. And then the horseshoe, as it's lovingly called, was all submitted as one. And I believe that's 13, 16 total units on that side.
Yeah.
So then things were changed with the departure of one of the city staff employees. And they went back to a different way of thinking about things. I wasn't a part of that decision. I didn't make it. I just went with the flow or did the best I could with it. Then in the payment processing of the permits, they realized this was gonna be a problem breaking all this down. So when I met with them, they actually switched it back to the 3 phases. So not only have we decreased in phases, but now we're trying to get to a point where there really is no phases at all and it's all coming up as one. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay, making sure.
Before we ask any additional questions, Joan, I know that this project is very near to your heart. So, could you give me your opinion, please?
No doubt there has been some issues with the city IT department and the staff coming and going. I think, there's probably issues on both sides. There's been some value engineering done. There's, some other factors playing in there. However, I just wanted to remind the board that the extension that you gave is actually up. So if you would like to extend, I think we need another amendment in order to do that. I'm not asking you to do it tonight. I'm just asking you if you would like me to put it on your next agenda in order for them to do it. We're really close and everybody's been working really hard. I know.
I just asked the follow-up question, because I think what I was trying to get at too with this phase 3 was, because I know that things should be wrapped up by July 30th. Is that the case?
It was May for phase 1 and I believe, June 30th or July 30th for phase 2 and 3. I could have that wrong.
Phase 3, I think is July 30th.
Pardon me, phase 1 and 2 in July. No. No, that's for termination.
They have to close.
Well, they have to get permits first.
And so if you could just clarify, sorry, what would we be approving on?
You would be approving an extension, giving them more time to get their permits and then for us to close on the properties.
And what do you perceive that, maybe?
I would ask. And what do you need?
Honestly, at this point, I feel like in the past presentations I provided, I've given a sense of what I was told. I'm not comfortable doing that anymore. Nestor and I have been working with Barry Schultz. Nestor met with Barry on July 5th, this past Friday. And
I don't
Barry.
think anybody knows who he is.
I'm sorry. So that was one of the issues that also arose. Peter Ringel used to be the head of the building department. He's since left. I don't know what the circumstances were. I just know that I was in contact with him and then he was gone. Barry Schultz is now his replacement. So we have been obviously in close contact now with Barry Schultz, especially on Friday afternoon when Nestor met with him. And Nestor just kind of expressed, look, this has been going on long enough. You know what the issues have been. We really could use your help here because we have to get moving here. He understood 1,000%. He was very, very supportive and said, Nestor, and I don't want to quote him, but he said, I am doing everything I can to get it out to you. I'll be in a building permit for 1310 this week, next, or as soon as I can. So I think the city staff understands what's happening. I think they are doing their best. I believe in them and I'm trying to make sure that everyone understands that, we hold them with ill will, but I can't tell you what their timeline is. I really can't. I had a timeline based on conversations in the past and we've gone through those for a multitude of different reasons.
I can tell you a little bit about the timeline, just as far as where the city is. I got an email from William Waters' staff today as far as 1310 is concerned. It has been reviewed by the building division. It has not been reviewed by electrical, mechanical, fire, plumbing, or landscape. So we would probably need at least a few weeks for that to take place. And then as far as 1216 and 1401, they're not quite at building permit yet. They're very close, making some tweaks to the site plan. So
Just to be clear though.
Yes. Go ahead.
Sorry, just to be clear, there is not a single document that my team doesn't have. So every time they ask for things, it's very, like I said, it's very minimal in that it says like your setbacks at 10.2, why is it at 10.2? We want it at 10. It's not a major change to a building. It's not a major change to a landscaping. It's you have your refuge areas here. We talk to Public Works. We'd actually like them here. So it's the changes that are being made. We understand they're important, and obviously they're going to influence how the property is managed and how it's handled by Public Works. But at the same time, they're not major changes that we're talking about here, and that's why I'm confident that when I resubmit tomorrow with 1216, 1401, based on my experience with 1310 and my conversations, that things will move swiftly. But as you just heard from Joan, I don't know how fast those departments for, if her example was 1310, I don't know how fast those departments are going to go. I can't speak to that.
Of the women having additional questions. I guess where we are now is whether or not we're going to put it on next month's agenda for the extension.
Well,
Say that again.
we would have to, yes.
Yes. Okay. And while we're doing that, could you please give us a recommendation next month when we do the extension and realistically how long this is going to take? We understand your commitment and we know that you've worked really hard to make this project a success. But this has been going on for a number of years. And so hopefully we're at the finish line.
Yeah.
Because we're certainly at the end of our extensions.
I understand your frustration and I'm not trying to belabor it at all.
I understand. I just want you to understand how.
I understand how serious you are. You're very serious to the point, and so are we, and I promise you, I'm doing everything I can. But I think it might work if I spoke with city staff, or we spoke with city
Put
staff,
together, yeah.
and
Yes.
got a proposal so that I'm not coming to you with any, timelines I can't live up to because it's out of my control.
We look forward to that.
Sounds good.
Thanks very much.
Do we need to make a motion to put it on the agenda?
No, it's
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We are now into our minutes from June 27th. Both of our meetings, can we have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion to approve minutes for June 27th.
We have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Minutes passed. Now we are to the consent agenda. And I know that we normally have a motion and a vote. Could you just go over item C for us, just so that we'll know what we're giving our consent for?
Sure, item C is the purchase of property at 15 North E. It's directly behind the arts lofts. And it's actually a double lot, so I was really excited. We've always wanted to continue that project or do something similar to that project. So I thought purchasing this property would be a really good opportunity for us to do it, especially since we own 2 other lots in that area.
So will this allow us to sell or move off the lots at the same time?
That's a really good question. I think we're gonna hold off a little bit and see if we can assemble a little bit more. There seems to be some long-standing landowners who seem to want to divest themselves from Lake Worth, and it might be a good thing. And so we're working with them to see if we can get some good deals on properties just west of there as well. So yeah, we'd hold off before making any final decisions.
Do you have any questions? And looking for a motion for the consent agenda. For items A and B. And C. I'm going to go through consent.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Now we are to our action agenda. Oops, no, we're gonna change it around. No, you're good. We're gonna do we'll do the action agenda first, and then we'll have a discussion agenda. After that.
Okay. Okay, for those of you who may remember, I believe it was last year, New South Residential came to us with a project that was a 2-phase housing project rental for people 55 and older. And that was a low-income housing tax credit project that would be built on 8th Avenue South and Dixie Highway. In order to get the LIHTC project through housing finance, we needed to come up with a local match of $640,000, which we did. And they actually did get the housing tax credit. So phase 1 will be moving through. Now, phase 1 on that particular property, I believe, consists of 91 units. They also have a phase 2, which will consist of 85 units. And it's a little different process for LIHTC this time. This time they're doing a request for funding, and Florida Housing Finance is only choosing one project in a redevelopment area. So as you might remember, last time we met, the Pinnacle came and asked for $75,000 in order for them to move forward with their application. Madison Terrace has also come forward and asked us for $75,000 for their application. Only one of the 2 groups would be able to get it. But we would like the board to consider, once again, providing the local match, so they can at least go after the tax credits for the project. If they do not get them, then there is another round of tax credits that will come out in the fall that they can apply for.
But they would lose out on this funding cycle, is what you're saying.
Correct.
And are we choosing between the two? Because I thought.
No, they're both applying. We could sponsor both and see whoever gets it.
And how does our budget? I'm sorry. Does anyone else have any questions?
It wouldn't be budgeted till next year, and I've taken that into account in our budget
You
already.
did, right? Okay. Now this one.
I guess the obvious question, maybe it's not obvious to me, but will this impact the construction phase of the construction then, or will it delay it?
No, they're still moving ahead with phase one.
Okay.
So actually voting for the funding, 75,000 for citizens. Is that what we need motion for tonight?
Yes, and then it would go to the city commission for us to transfer the money to the city, and the city would actually have to sign the paperwork. And then we would come back with an interlocal between us and the city in order to allow that transfer.
And that is what I'm looking for a item for us. Voting.
To prove the sheriff signing the life local government verification form and agree to it from the strike to be completed $1,000. The money is being budgeted in next year's housing budget.
And we are gonna have discussion, but before we have the discussion, a little more from us, if there's someone who would like to have public comment on this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to say thank you all for your service once again. Sarah Maliga, Lake Worth Beach resident, also City Commission Vice Mayor. There's an interesting study that came out that I sent to Joan to share with you. And it's from the Homeless and Housing Alliance in Palm Beach County. And this just came out, and if you go through and read it, you will see that they basically outlaid the things that the county can do, which they have more money and more resources, versus what the cities can do. And I want you, when you guys are making these decisions, to really think about this study and what they've brought forward. You'll notice recommendations to community leadership, which you represent. Living wage, raise wage, changes in legislation, rent control, rental increase regulations, we can't do that. Create, designate affordable housing based on individual income. So as far as I'm concerned, the way that we can continue to move the city forward and address the homelessness issues and this legislative coming down is to help fund these great projects that are coming before us. That's what the CRA is for. That's what ARPA money is for. We really need to continue to just dig down and figure out between the CRA and the city, how we can continue to bring these great programs on board. Affordable housing for seniors is that's a grand slam. That's a no-brainer, right? We need that in this city. You know, the gentleman who presented earlier, Tim, he's been working on these projects for years. How do I know? Because they're in my neighborhood. He's gone to the neighborhood associations. So just when you're really up there and you're contemplating budgets, and you guys are talking about your budget today, when I've gone through it line by line, just be mindful that every penny we can give to bring these housing projects to fruition is just going to help with the longevity of this city. So please just consider that when you make these decisions. Thank you.
You want board discussion? Do you have any comments or questions?
We need a second.
Second.
Yes, I'll second you.
It's very hard to hear over here. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm like, we have a motion and a second. Okay, anyone have any more comments for discussion, or did you want to move to a vote? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? We passed. Thanks. Now, we're gonna go back to our discussion agenda for our fiscal year 25 budget.
Sure. In everybody's packet, there's, three budget sheets. One is proposed, operating, one is proposed capital project, and the other one is debt service. I'll start with the proposed operating, giving you, an overview of what we have in front of you. Under the revenues, which is up at the top, we have obviously the county and the city portions of the TIF. We have some interest earnings. We do not have any grant revenue this year. We do have some donations, some use of fund balance, and specifically fund balance designated for obligations. So what we did this year, in order to try to make it a little more clear, was to delineate between things we were carrying over from years past and what we were actually budgeting for a line item this year. So you will see under programs, you'll see, for instance, economic development, and then underneath it, economic development rollover. And I'll explain all of this to you. So from the board priorities, we had a top, I would say 6: transportation, beautification, marketing, economic development, which is what we're here for, commercial grants, and finally residential. As far as our expenses and administration, there were not any really significant increases. We did increase legal, insurance, computers, and books, memberships, and dues, just because things are increasing in price. We also have more properties to take care of, and we do have the downtown and an enormous amount of properties that we will be either transferring or purchasing, and therefore a need for legal services. So that the subtotal in administration did go up a little bit. Under programs for professional services, it went from 145 to 185. I put a little extra money in here because we are most likely, or maybe going to be potentially moving some homes in the downtown, and I wanted to make sure that we had money set aside to make sure that that took place and that we had money in other places in order to facilitate that move. Under beautifications, banners, and decorations, this one went up substantially since I think it was number 2 on your priority list. We increased it to include the lighting event that Emily told you about a few months ago, and she's currently working on that. And to also do some of the other programs that we do, for instance, the gateway banners and the downtown banners. Marketing program, we budgeted at 260 with the hope that the city would join in with us doing a citywide marketing program. I know during commission meetings, the city's talked about doing a marketing campaign and also kind of a clean and green campaign as well. So we put 260 in there with the hope that they would join us. If not, we could potentially do one ourselves. Neighborhood and housing programs, we increased that just slightly to $35,000. We found that at the Habitat Women's Build, there was a great need for homes that are surrounding other new affordable homes that need painting, fencing, and landscaping. I know a number of you were there that day. And we'd really like to continue that and try to perhaps do it even more free of charge to our neighbors. Downtown programs, although this was not listed on our priority, we do have things to take care of in the downtown. We have bike racks, we have planters, we have signs in the planters, we have trash cans, and we have benches. So that money is for replacement. Local transportation, quite honestly, last year we threw in a number of 350 because we really didn't know exactly how much circuit was going to cost. So this year, the numbers are a little more specific. It's 263,762, which includes the rest of our portion paying for circuit for this year. It also includes a 3% escalator that comes in March. So that would take us to the following budget year. And then it also includes, just in case, adding another car or expanding the boundaries, which we would have to then have another car. But that's something that, you know, we're actively talking to the city about, or whether or not we can do that, because if you remember our priority meeting, we looked at the map, and if we extended to the north or to the south, the city's responsibility would also increase. But just to be on the safe side, we did budget it. So we have economic development and an economic development rollover. For economic development, I have $1.2 million. This includes the payment towards the Gulf Stream. I put in $500,000 for the downtown, not knowing exactly what the plan is for that. And then another $300,000 to take care of actually rehabbing those homes if we are to move them from L Street over to K. Economic development rollover, that's $250,000. That covers our incentive money for infrastructure for the Deco Green project. Housing this year, the majority of the housing funds is in capital, and we'll go over that shortly. But we did put some money in here for housing to cover some of the other programs that we have, including our payments to, if they get the money, Pinnacle and or New Residential South, and some other supporting money for other programs such as the individual deposit account that we have in the city, and also for the home buyer classes that we sponsor. Our housing rollover is $740,000, and that is, bless you, that is $640,000 for the match for Madison Terrace, and also some money for Inhabit that we had promised to give them back a few years in order to pay for some of the infrastructure, because right now they kind of have a little bit of a nightmare as far as having all the infrastructure in the middle of those blocks. Our commercial grant program, we budgeted $415,000 for new grants. We have $362,772 for rollovers. That includes the ones that you just approved at our last meeting, also a few for signage and project and properties, which I believe was approved 2 meetings ago. We have our tax increment rebate at $572. That came down due to just things not increasing as much as we thought they would. And we have a transfer to the city for downtown lighting for $50,180, and that was the lighting program that the city has already has a contractor to do for helping to light up the poles in the downtown on Lake and Lucerne from the circle down to the Gulf Stream. Moving down to projects and grants, transfer to capital fund, housing and infrastructure. This number 1.3 includes the purchase of 501 Lake Avenue, which the commission actually approved back in 2020. We would have to move that forward if we are going to move forward with the W Moda project. So I put the 340 in there. There's also another $200,000 for transportation that we're putting over to capital. The city is finalizing their mobility plan. And so out of caution, we put 200 in there in case there's any somewhat easy transportation programs that we can partner with the city on for capital. We're also moving over $750,000 for housing. And it also includes $20,000 for Hatch because we're having significant leaking and some other issues at the building itself. Under buildings and acquisitions, we have slight increases pretty much across the board due to increasing costs, especially demos, property management. Those two costs have skyrocketed in just the past few years. Under Lula programs, we have slight increases again, just due to the cost of doing business. And then for debt service, you can see we have a transfer of debt service of $595,883. That's our annual payment, which we will be making until 2027. We can now move to the capital budget. Most of this I've explained, but just in case, I'll go over the revenues as well as the expenses. So we have a transfer from the CRA of the 1310, which I just explained was the purchase of 501, 200 for transportation, 750 for housing, and 20 for Hatch. We have another $500,000 for housing. Apparently the city actually was supposed to transfer us 2.5 million of the ARPA. I was told recently by finance that there's still another $500,000 there. So I put it in just hoping that maybe we can still get the money in ARPA funds for that. $500,000 would certainly help us. Under grant revenues federal, we have 673,000 in community project funding left. And then on our designated fund balance, we have a little over $2 million, and that's other grant money. As well as the infrastructure for the side streets, so it's 1.5 for housing. And then $600,000 that we pledged to the city to pay for the sidewalks, and I believe the remilling of the roads between A and G on the west side of town. Under expenses, we have transportation improvements, again, $200,000 we put aside just in case there's any things in the mobility plan that we could help pay for along with the city or perhaps with a grant. Facilities, that goes to the hatch. Infrastructures, that's $600,000 for roads. Land acquisition at $340K, that is for 501 Lake Avenue, which again is the sale between the city and the CRA for that particular building in the downtown. And for housing programs, we have a total of $3.4 million. And this is comprised of community project funding, ARPA funding, TIF funding, and some transfer from the CRA of $750,000 for a total of 4.5 in our capital project. Last but not least, our debt service account, really pretty easy. We have a transfer from the CRA of $595 to pay our debt service, and so that's listed in revenues and expenses. And we do make a little bit of interest, so we also included that $39,000. So at this time, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Anyone have any questions? And again, this is just a draft. You guys can change anything you want in here. I will make any changes that you suggest tonight, bring it back to the next board for you to adopt. Any questions?
So when you do a lot, but not very much.
I'll try to spread it.
One of the things that I am concerned about is our facade infrastructure grants, interior, exterior. And we tend to have a repeat of the same companies every year. And last year we made some changes to this program to say that an owner can't come before us more than twice. But what I saw this year is that we have owners asking for larger amounts of money. And so whether you come to me twice or not, if you're getting $100,000, it's $100,000. And so what I'd like us to do is can we carve out some money for smaller amount grants and try and handle them under our marketing? Because along the Dixie corridor, going towards the north end of Dixie, I would like to see those businesses there get some money for facade grants. And I don't know if they've asked, but they certainly, I didn't think they asked because I've been driving, looking down the street and I said, they need help.
No, but we sent postcards in English and Spanish to every single business in the district,
Right.
letting them know.
So what I'd like to do is for us to allot some money under marketing and to,
It wouldn't go under marketing. We could carve out a percentage or a number in commercial grants, but it needs to go under the grant line item.
okay, then to make sure that I'd like to go to them and say, the CRA has this project. I'd like the businesses other than downtown to benefit from the CRA. And if they're in our CRA district, I think that they should be able to come to us, but be encouraged to come to us. I think that we were all inspired by the lady who only wanted $10,000, for her catering business. That is what I want us to do just as much as we give to larger businesses that are coming and thinking nothing and telling us they need $50,000. So I don't know if we need to change the parameters of the grant, or we need to discuss what we'd like to do this week.
I think we would need to put this on an agenda to discuss.
Okay,
Because what's the delineation, between a small business and a large business? And then remember, this goes to the property owner, it doesn't go to the business. So now we're talking about, we have to look at perhaps who the owner is. And then also look at what the business is and try to figure out, how to split up the money amongst you know, however many people come and ask for it.
We do that anyway. You know, that wouldn't be different. The only thing is we would look at smaller owners and we try and encourage them to have a piece of the pie. You know, I feel very sad that a company can come to me and say, between the interior and exterior, I need almost $100,000. My budget is $400,000. I don't want to keep giving up 1/4 of our budget to the same people every year. Maybe one of the things that we should discuss is maybe if a company comes to us and we get $100,000 this year, then next year they can't come. We need to have a discussion. And you're right. I would love to put it on our agenda for next month so that we can look at exactly where we want to go with this program and how we can reach out to smaller businesses within the CRA district, especially on the northern border.
And I know they don't ask for a lot of money, but we do have a lot of businesses on Dixie Highway that ask for signage grants. And Chris has facilitated probably, I don't even know how many this year, but they're pretty much all on Dixie Highway. So they have been coming to us for those kind of grants. They just haven't really been coming for the facade and tenant improvement. And perhaps that's because they don't own the buildings. But we'll discuss it.
Thank you. Other than that, I didn't have any additional questions, except I was very pleased that all of our little dots made a difference, because we have kind of changed our priorities. And marketing, I think, will be really beneficial for the CRA, because I think that people don't realize how much the CRA does. And that you guys do a phenomenal job with a small staff and limited amount of money. But if we could market better, maybe people would respect us a little more. And so I was happy that, you know, we were able to do that.
Actually, point choice, and it came up under transportation at the last meeting, so I'm looking out for everybody in the town. Talking about protected bike lanes, because I know it's a priority for many of us. And just wondering, and then you also sent us an article about protected bike lanes, so just wondering, you know, how do we further that discussion?
Well, I was actually on the phone with WGI, who's doing the mobility study for the city today. And they should be sending us a draft relatively soon. They'll also be presenting at our August meeting. And they have included not only their recommendations on transportation and intersections and crosswalks, but also on protected bike lanes. So that should be in their report.
Thank you.
Is there a report gonna show locations for potential bike racks too, or do you know if that's included? I know we talked about that a
I
little.
actually don't know if it's in there, but I will reach out to them tomorrow and see if they can add that. If it's not.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure we internally, that's something we look at too, but, I just wanted to throw in there as well that, I'm not sure how much the 35,000 would go toward for downtown improvements would go towards like trash cans or new trash can lids or benches, but I do think bike racks are desperately needed. If that's something we can prioritize on that. Okay.
Public comment?
Again, sorry.
As your CRA liaison, I want to say thank you for the budget, which I went over line by line. And I'm gonna ask when you, first of all, thank you for the beautification. I think it's amazing. I had brought an idea forward to Joan last year when it came to the banners. I would like you guys to consider doing veterans banners to honor veterans from our city. A lot of cities during that time period, they will reach out to families and they can put a veteran on a flag with their branch of service and honoring that veteran if they came from the city of Lake Worth Beach. I would like you to think about that. You know, as you guys look at the banners and the flags, because last year when I asked her, she goes, "We're out of money." It's all about the budget. Second thing, I noticed that the circuit has advertising on it, which is awesome. But is that money going to circuit? Is it going back to the CRA? Does it adjust our budget? How does that offset? I didn't see anything in the backup about that. And I know that the city kicked in money to help start it. So I just didn't know who was receiving those advertising funds and how it benefited the city, if anybody could explain that.
Sure, actually half the advertising money and all of the dollars that they collect Once we have a little bit more in the bank, we'll be going back to the city. The CRA will not be receiving any of that money.
Won't raise my hand anymore.
And that brings up another question that I have. We had discussed changing the routes, expanding it, making changes. We're looking at our rider usage, what would be important to the people who actually live in Lake Worth. So we'll also be having that discussion next month when we talk about the transportation mobility study.
Yeah, I mean, we really, we also need the city at the table. So looking at the map that they just sent us today, there's really no areas that we could cut in order to expand to other areas. We're kind of hitting it pretty much everywhere that we currently have it. We could expand down Dixie Highway and just keep it in the CRA district if we wanted to, when we do have the money budgeted, if we do want to do that. But if we wanted to expand it more than that, then the money would have to come from the city. As you know, the city and CRA have applied for 2 transportation grants. I don't know when those are going to come in. I'm sure if those did, we probably expanded in a minute. But as of right now, it's just a matter of, does the city have more funding to put towards this particular program?
Have we maxed out our funding within the CRA district?
Yes.
Okay, I think people maybe missed that, that we were all in. So if we're talking about expanding it, we're really going to be going to the city and asking them, to make that happen.
Unless it's just on Dixie Highway, yeah. And I think it's important for it to go to the neighborhoods as much as possible. Too.
Yes. So we would have that discussion as well.
Yes.
Especially to get all the advertising on.
It's not much.
I'm just kidding.
I don't think it's.
That same question is the money, the dollar that does that go to them or does that go to us?
It goes to the city.
Goes
The
to
way
city.
that we have the agreement done, it goes to the city.
Okay.
And one other question about another favorite topic, which are shade trees and shade trees. And I know we talked about it and it's one of the priorities. So I'm just wondering how we want to do that in terms of the city and presenting with another commission meeting or what's our plan? We didn't really develop that.
That's a really great question because I was trying to think about that. We all want shade trees, but where do we put them that we have control over? If it's not for one of our redevelopment projects. So again, I don't think that would be in the mobility plan, although I think it's kind of related to pedestrian transportation and bicycling. I could check on that, but again, I think it's probably one of those other things that we need to talk about with the city and what their plans on moving forward.
And I know that the mayor is here and we just put forth, we're working on an RFQ for Bryant Park and other locations in the city that we could get a bid out and for multiple projects. So Betty, maybe you want to talk about that?
We have a couple of things. There was the $50,000 that the city and the city set aside, which is going to be concentrated on Bryant Park. And we're working on keeping that separate from the overall. We'll also have an open space. You probably all know about this, the survey for the open spaces.
Yeah.
So that's really the more long-term plan about where in the city should we place things, how should we do it, what's needed. And that's not back yet. We don't have that back yet. But clearly, shade trees are a priority for that. And the $50,000 is going to be kept separate. They're trying little mini forests, little tiny forests in Bryant Park along the path. And the first one they're working, and the Nest, the ladies that got together to promote this idea are actively working with the tree board, and hopefully we'll see some trees up soon because it's a big priority for all of us. So thank you.
In the workshop, that was something that I felt really strongly about. I'm glad that it was put forward on our little worksheets, and I'd really like to discuss it further with the board, and I think we have big supporters from there all down, but also we might be able to get some public-private, also people might be able to dedicate trees. I think there's a lot of opportunity where trees come, prosperity also arrives. And certainly no one can argue against planting more trees. in this climate system.
It's true, especially, and I know this is an aside, but I noticed driving yesterday that a lot of the bus stops, there was no shade whatsoever, none whatsoever. What a big difference it would make if we had some shade trees for those people not doing it at the bus stop.
But the other thing is shelter, bus stop.
That's good.
The problem is, we have more people than we have shelter, even if they add more. You know, sometime at certain bus stops, it is so many people waiting. And so even if we enlarge the shelter, we still need the trees because there are people who are just
I'm not disagreeing with you, saying, Tom Tran has met with us and said, pretty much, I think every bus stop is gonna have more a substantial shelter. They understand that's ridiculous.
maybe we can just add trees around it. Then it'll look better too.
That's DOT lets us.
Yeah.
I think we've done the discussions agenda and the action agenda. So now we're on to the executive director report.
I have bad news. We did not receive the pathways to removing obstacles to housing from HUD. That was a $10 million application that we made. We're very disappointed. Not only did we not get it, but nobody in Florida got it. Yeah, like, do they not know we're under a housing emergency? We did call HUD. Actually, I contacted them today, and we're gonna go through a debriefing to see exactly what we did right and what we did wrong. And they are going to put the program, they're going to announce it later this year again, so we will take notes and apply again. We have Christie Toussaint exhibition is over at the Hatch for anybody who would like to come see that. And then finally, we have our community arts exhibition. Call for Artists is opening for our community show. The theme this year is cottage chic, and all applications are due, I believe, by August 1st for that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
John, when we did Unity Law several years ago, and we put out a call to artists to help your life work, would we be able to at least let Help Your Life Work know that we're having this open now? And could she send out something to all the artists that participated in Unity Law?
Yeah,
absolutely. Will you coordinate it with Carmel, Marcel and Jackson? Chapman, Carmel, Marcel and Jackson. Now we to board member comments. Start with you, Danny.
From everything today, the thing that I'm thinking about now is the parking garage or the proposed parking structure at the museum area. I'm reluctant to invest more money into. I know it was approved unanimously by the city commission, but I just wonder how much more money we can invest into parking, considering how much we already have, how much is being utilized, and how much realistically it will be used in the future, especially when we see so many different kinds of alternative methods of transportation coming up and, making it more affordable for people. I think there's a learning gap right now. I know that I tried to do a little bit of outreach in regards to Circuit. There are some places where you couldn't get picked up. For example, you couldn't go to the tri-rail for a little bit. You couldn't get picked up from the Guatemala Mine Center, if you went there for food distribution. I wonder how many other little addresses are being serviced properly. So I think, there's we still haven't seen the full potential of Circuit. I would advocate to keep investing into something like that, educating the public about that service, making it more obtainable, maybe even free temporarily, as a pilot. I know I talked to some people and they have issues with the credit card, which we knew a lot of the undocumented population here in the city, they're just unbanked, and I've talked to some of them about getting a Walmart prepaid card and stuff like that. But, you know, some populations, they adapt a little bit later to some new technologies, so, I just don't know how, you know, how much, bang we're gonna get for another parking garage in downtown, area. I'm talking about the whole span of Lake Avenue. But, aside from that, you know, I think we have a lot of good initiatives. We're accomplishing a lot of things, and, I'm happy to see, all of our, you know, some of our projects come to fruition and to start new projects.
Thanks everyone for a good meeting. I was pleased with the presentations, especially knowing that Village Flats is moving along, and I especially appreciated the discussion about what some of the issues are that the project that Mr. Carey is facing. It's a great project, and I didn't realize that about digital transmission issues and some of the others, and that change of personnel in the building departments. It was good to hear about that. Yeah, and that's about it. I appreciate also the budget discussion, Joe, going into all that detail, and there's lots of exciting things going on. And yeah, thanks everybody.
I have no comment, thank you.
I want to pick up a little bit about what, my esteemed fellow commissioner, Daniel Morgan's talking about with, parking and cars. And, unfortunately, we're not there yet, and I don't know how much we're heading there, but it's always good to keep an eye on the future. One thing we can think about is maybe future-proof the parking garage. If and when we do a parking garage, which it sounds like we're heading that way, make sure that the actual design of it is such that it can be made into housing in the future. If we have a really spiffy mobility system that doesn't include cars. There are ways to design parking garages that don't have so many ramps, and they are adaptable to stores or whatever. So that's just something that might, you know, allow us to approve it with some conscience, because I, of course, can't stand cars myself. I know that there are a lot of people who, you know, feel very strongly about parking and cars, and they need them, but I think we're all being swept along with WMODA, and I think we all see that, you know, we may not agree with everything that has to happen in order for WMODA to come to us. However, I urge everyone to support them. And I mean, for instance, I may not like their design for their museum, but I'm a big supporter of WMODA. I think it's great for, you know, we have to just kind of maybe overlook some of those things, that like the parking garage, which we may not personally support, but is the pathway to getting museum in town.
Just very brief point of order. I want to make sure that Commissioner Bartlett's strong on dots didn't count in our priorities. I continue to be cheered by WMODA's willingness to engage with the public. I think they've done a phenomenal job of keeping us engaged and trying to be mindful of what the city wants balanced against the economic viability of their project. With Mr. Belega, I've been kind of shouting housing first from the rooftops and trying to get some Palm Beach County buy-in on that. So I would love it if we could start to figure out how to make it understood that the program in Houston that is housing first is actually making an impact in both the homeless or in that community, as well as in treating addiction and the other issues that keep people from having stable housing. So we don't know that that's necessarily to this board, and I know I can be pretty granular in my comments. This is my wide aspiration, want to get this done. So thank you.
I think that that's where a lot of our ideas for the CRA comes from, is us looking at those issues in other cities and how they deal with them, and then how we can do it. And we're always looking for that item outside the box to say this can work and make work. You know, so I appreciate Joan and her staff for their willingness to go that extra mile. I'm really excited about the marketing portion of our budget, that we'll be doing things that we haven't done before. And we're able to have conversations and say, let's try this. And that's all we can do. You know, as far as the circuit is concerned, I think that, Daniel, your comments, maybe you'd like to go and speak for the commission. Because the commission is the one that's gonna have to ante up the money if they would like to expand circuit outside the CRA district. So this is not gonna be a CRA fight, it's gonna be a city commission fight. So maybe you wanna go and speak with them, just an idea. But thank you all for all that you do. I know that sometimes we come and we kind of get lost in the weeds of so many projects going on, but we seem to keep a handle to say we're at least moving forward. In the board of comments, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good meeting.